Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, let's dive into the first full episode of season 5. Wow, 2025 came in way too quick. Like, isn't it 2020 last year? Like just yesterday? I think those past 12 years just sort of appeared on us.
Yeah, I think you're right. 2024 came in like a lion and just kept going forward. It's like blink of an eye, it's almost over, and it was over. It's like, I don't know. Like, I still had my pants on, so I guess it went okay.
I'm pretty sure 2024 is like the Flash. Showed up and it left just as quick.
Feels like it. So, all right. So, because it's just us, we are going to go and have some fun with it, and we're going to pick some religion questions that are germane to the movie we're going to review. So, first off, are you two ready for this?
Yes.
All right. Ex Machina, iRobot, or Small Soldiers? Nick, we're going to let you go first.
I like Ex Machina. It's a slow burn. I get it. I've had this discussion with Stabby many times because she's like, oh, it makes me sleepy. I want to fall asleep. It's so boring. I'm like, I'll give it to you. It's a slow burn. But that last 45 minutes is freaking insane.
Okay. I'm not normally a fan of slow burns, but I'd be willing to give it a shot. We'll add it to the long list of things we want to review. We'll throw that one on there. Wait, Stabby might hate us if we make her watch it. Or maybe she'll thank us for giving her a nap. I'm not sure. You're both muted now. do, 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 do. Uh-oh. All right, Nick talks while she figures it out.
No, I don't know. That's weird. It's like showing not muted on my end. Hold on. Stabby, unmute your mic real quick.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you. Perfect.
All right, you're on, baby.
It literally said I wasn't muted. I don't know what. It just had a seizure, I think.
Could be. I know this is riveting audio, people.
I would not mind a nap. The holidays wear me out. My kid's birthday is on Christmas Day, so I'm exhausted at this point. So yes, absolutely. We can watch that, but I will get a nap out of it. I think he's got me to stay awake once for Ex Machina, but I personally will choose Small Soldiers every time because the Commandos turned the Barbies into like G.I. Janes, and I often did that as a child. Like my Joes needed, female companionship, so.
What kind of, I was going to ask you what kind of female companionship, but then I realized we might lose our family-friendly rating.
Nope,
so
just friends. Just friends. Boys. They definitely were just friends. They were backup support. Because if you got to call in the girls, there's a bigger issue.
I feel like this is where we could quote like Lord of the Rings, be like, ladies are back on the menu, boys. So for me, I'm going to go with Small Soldiers just because I thought it was kind of humorous, but also dark in a way, especially that end scene. So yeah, for me, it's Small Soldiers as well. And I really do think we ought to add Small Soldiers to our movie review panel topics. Because
absolutely. I love that movie so much.
You heart that movie so hard?
I heart that movie so hard.
All right. So I will add Ex Machina. I'll add Ex Machina and Small Soldiers to our movie review list. Anyway, all right, let's try to be professional, JR. What are we gonna do? All right. I like iRobot. I thought that was pretty good. I watched the Will Smith version. I didn't hate it. I've read the book too, so it's kind of cool to see it envisioned. I have not seen Ex Machina, so I can't really weigh on that one. But because we never just do one, I picked some for the family-friendly robot movies. So we've got the Wild Robots, or the Iron Giant.
Oh man. Okay, so we haven't seen the Wild Robot yet, but we did see the trailer when we went to see Beetlejuice. Oh man, that's so hard because I love the Iron Giant. I love the heart behind the Iron Giant. But Robots is funny because it's got my boyfriend Robin Williams in it, and also I think the robot with the big fanny.
Your what?
My what?
Your boyfriend?
My boyfriend.
It just hit. There was a delayed reaction.
He knows that I love Robin Williams. Come on. But I love the robot with the big fanny. I believe her name was Fanny, and she cracked me up. So, but I mean, I guess if I had to choose, it would be Iron Giant because the heart in that movie is absolutely there.
Okay, I like the Iron Giant too. What about you, Nick?
I'm an Iron Giant fan. I don't get me wrong. I do like Robots for similar reasons as everyone else, as Stabby said. It's funny. It's got Robin Williams. How do you not love that? But there's definitely an emotional connection with the Iron Giant. You know, it's a hero's tale, and there's very few movies that'll make me get all like onion cutting ninjas were running by, and Giant's one of them. Like it tugs on the heartstrings. And I shouldn't enjoy that, but like doing the infantry thing for so long, you like try to pride yourself like, oh, I'm just a stone-hearted, defender of freedom, killer, whatever. When something touches you at that level where it actually kind of makes you teary and like, God damn it, he's such an honorable dude. I would have a platoon full of him. It just sticks in my memory bank. So it's a beloved movie for me, and I love it. And when I saw it in Ready Player One, I even got teary eyed again because it brought back the movie itself. As it's just slogging through going after that castle. I think the character's cool. And who knew that Vin Diesel had so much range?
Okay, so does it go on the list of movies where it's acceptable for men to cry at, like Old Yeller and Where the Red Fern Grows and The Bridge to Terabithia?
Oh, it's up there with Old Yeller, Where the Red Fern Grows, Gremlins. Because if you grew up watching Gremlins, you didn't cry when Gizmo went away with the old Chinese dude. You're a heartless piece of shit. Yeah, so it's right up there with those heartstring movies, where you're like, oh, God, Endgame. That's on the list now, and that was just in 2019 when that movie came out.
Okay,
I'm gonna get you all the cheeseburgers you want.
Just because we try to mix it up a little bit, I got 4 that I couldn't figure out because when we do these movie pairings, we try to pair like with like as far as types of movies. So that's why we do the family
similarities, if you will.
I had 4 that I thought were excellent robot movies. They didn't really fit any one vein, so I put them all down as one. So we've got Chucky, The Terminator, Stepford Wives, or I Am Mother.
Oh shit!
Oh, hold on, Stabby, you're on. I'm
gonna. Okay. All of those are awesome. I love Chucky as the OG Chucky. I don't like the remake Chucky. I don't like him being a robot. So I have to kick Chucky out on this one, which if you ever watched our show in the previous seasons, I usually side with the slasher, but I can't on this one because I did not like him as a robot. I Am Mother was messed up. I think I'm going to have to go Stepford Wives because that was a twist I was not expecting the first time I saw that one. Yeah.
Okay, Nick? Nick?
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was waiting for the mute icon to pop up. A little delayed fuse on that one. Thank God it's not a grenade. I don't know. Those are all... They each have something that's really worth talking about or worth enjoying. Being an old school '80s dude, '80s sci-fi guy, I'm gonna have to go with the Terminator. As much and a close, I mean, like photo finish second is I Am Mother. But Terminator was awesome. God, it was meant to be a sci-fi, but at the age that I watched it, it was definitely a horror movie, especially when the skin and all that melted off, at the end, and it's just this like metal skeleton with these bright white shiny teeth. Guy definitely sees a dentist, and it's just, I was like, and the red eyes were just so impactful for me. I was just like, this is the scariest thing I've ever fucking seen in my life.
I mean, we did the episode last season when horror becomes sci-fi, right? Like it happens.
Yeah. And we've had that talk in the house today when we were watching M3GAN, doing a little recap, make sure we get all the essence and ins and outs, nuts and bolts, soups to nuts, so we could talk about it intellectually for tonight's show. And the boy, we'll come up with a name for him later. He's like, hey, would you ever, like, do you think this is a good idea? And I'm like, no, dude, I don't F with AI. Like, I've seen so many movies in the 80s and 90s where that is a bad idea. Even in the early 2000s with I Am Robot, you're like, no, artificial intelligence is a bad idea, dude. Because especially like you go into the Marvel universe, Ultron spent 30 seconds connected to the internet, and he was like, humanity's got to go. They're the problem.
So did Multipass from Fifth Element.
Yeah.
Ninu.
Yeah, Fifth Element. War Games, even War Games.
Lulu, there we go.
Lulu. Multipass.
That could be your goal next year. It depends on the weather. Like that could be your goal for Halloween in 2025.
It still stays pretty warm here in Southern California in October. Like
Stabby gave me the look, so I'm not sure she'd go for it.
She doesn't want to wear the orange netted, whatever that was.
The cheese outfit.
The cheese outfit. The cheese overalls.
No, thank you.
All right, so I've watched Chucky.
We're leaving out an AI movie here, though, and it's funny because it just happens to be on our big TV in the living room, and I keep like looking over and seeing it. The promo for Afraid is on our TV right now.
Oh yeah.
And
so today's topic is more about robots than AI, although I think they go hand in hand. But it's like peanut butter and chocolate, right? They just go together.
All I'm saying is they put a robotic thing in their house and the AI eyeballs take over their life.
They had the AI go wrong in the show Eureka too, where the AI falls in love with him and then it won't let him his date out. Remember, like Eureka was both serious issues, but also it was like comical sitcom-y. It's a perfect series.
Or Disney Channel had a Smart House.
Okay.
They had Smart House, and the kid won some thing, and they move into the Smart House, and the mother from Married with Children, Peggy, I don't know the actress's name, but the actress for Peggy is the voice of the Smart House, and she becomes so attached to them and wants to protect them that she winds up locking them inside the house and controlling how much food, water, and everything they can get. And I'm just over here like, Disney, what are you doing?
Yeah. So I don't know. Like for me, I get that the concept of a smart house. I'm like, I'm a little leery too. Yeah. Of that list, I've seen Chucky the original. I haven't seen the robot remake, so I can't really vote on that one. But I know Nick mentioned it, so I threw it on the list. Terminator, I liked. Because again, like, it's got it's 80s cheese. It's got so many quotable, awesome lines. Like, what's not to love? Stepford Wives, the first time you watch it, that twist, like you just don't see it coming.
Nope.
But for me, I'm going to go with I Am Mother because that was just so creepy. And even when I watched it again and I knew what was going to happen, that scene where she opens up the incinerator still hits you in the feels.
Still hits you.
Even when you know it's coming, you're watching it, be like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. And be like, oh my God, it's so sad. Those poor babies. Like even knowing it's coming.
I think that's when you know you have a good movie. If you can watch it a million times and something still triggers you to an extent. And I hate using the word trigger, but some movies have that.
Menu?
I know, like I still to this day cannot watch Misery without closing my eyes. I cannot watch him get his ankles broken with a sledgehammer. I cannot do it. And we all know I love me a good horror movie and I love a good jump scare. But to this day, I have been watching that since I was little and I sit like this during that scene because I cannot. And I think that's how you know you have a good story. Is if you can watch it a million times and still it does something to you.
Yeah. All right. So with that out of the way, what are you looking forward to with your coffee choices for the rest of this winter season? Because it's January.
Nick ordered me new coffee brand coffee.
What flavors?
The holiday editions. Okay,
nice.
Hold on. I gotta pull up the list because there's so. I know one is called Sugar Plum coffee. I have to pull out the list because he's like, "Hey, hon, coffee brand has new coffees. Go pick a few."
That's love right there, Nick.
Isn't it? Isn't it just? Okay, hold on. I got it right here. So the flavors are, and they did a 12 days of coffee advent calendar. I'm just letting you guys know. So there's vanilla sugar cookie, gingerbread, sugar plum, and hot butter rum. Those are our 4 coffees that we got from Coffee Brand Coffee for the holiday season. And chef kisses across the board. Chef kisses.
Nice. All right. For me, I don't know. I've been going black coffee lately. I don't know. I can't afford the calories, so I've just been drinking it straight up. And on the one hand, it's like it feels somehow sacrilegious. Like there's certain things you just shouldn't raw dog, and coffee is one of them, in my opinion. I'm phrasing right, but like obviously, like the skinnier me. And so I was out walking today, and there's a sailor that lives in the apartment complex behind my house, and I happened to run into him again. It's the first time I've seen him in 6 months because he's been out on a cruise, right? Because the Navy goes out 6 months at a time.
Lord. Yes, sir.
You're like smaller, and I'm like, I think I love you, sir. So that's kind of been my motivation to stick with just the black coffee because when I put my cream and sugar or just cream, it starts adding to the calories. So obviously we've all kind of overdone it with the Thanksgiving and then the Christmas and then the New Year. So we could all start 2025. we could start 2025 like with some calorically good dishes, right? The good news is Jana Brown, friend of the show, is sending me some awesome canning recipes for healthy foods because I have been replacing all of my store brand soups with soups I make myself and then can. So like I went from like I had a cup of insert random Campbell's soup and it's like 1 billion calories, or I make it myself and I'm like, you could eat a quart for 350. And the recovering fat man in me is like, hell yeah, eat more for less calories. I'm down. So
that's why I make homemade bread.
Yeah.
So, like when you do homemade bread, it only has 1/4 of a teaspoon of sugar for the whole loaf.
Oh, because you use the honey.
Make it fresh.
Okay. I'm not up there with the sourdough crew who has like my own yeast farm going on to make my own bread. I'm not there yet.
So hard.
Nope, I don't do I don't make homemade sourdough.
Nope. Not yet.
But I definitely need to get into that. I'm expanding my zombie emergency preparedness skills. We have a guy used to come on the AM radio back when the channel was existed, and he was a lawyer by day, but he's a libertarian talk show host. And someone asked him about prepping because they were mocking. This is right before COVID. They were mocking all of the people for preppers as being crazy. I'm like, dude, we live in a hurricane-prone area. Like, I'm not saying we have to prep for World War III or zombies, right? Just, sometimes we lose power, and it'd be nice not to starve, right?
Yeah.
And so they asked him, and so they asked him. Somebody called it up to mock him, and they were asking him why he was prepping. And he goes, "Oh, I prep for the alphabet." And they're like, "What do you mean?" He says, "I prep from A to Z, everything from Al Qaeda to zombies, because you just never know."
That's smart, though. And the CDC actually used zombies in their disaster relief commercial. It was like, I think it was pre-COVID. It was like Walking Dead.
Well, the other thing they do, World War III nuclear. Before the Ukraine thing kicked off. So, but like they do that kind of stuff because on the one hand, like FEMA can only do so much. The more people are prepared on their own, like the more they can do to help you. If it's just getting you power instead of also having to feed you and give you water and right. And so, by making it zombies or insert random horror, like whatever, if you make it fun, people start saying, "Oh, this is kind of cool," right? And then you get them to, you take away the stigma essentially. Because it used to be, I remember back in the day when the History Channel did the Doomsday Preppers, and they would always make them pick just one thing and then mock them for it. Like, the odds of this actually happening are slim to none. I'm like, okay, but if a tornado goes through, they still got
just
food.
Watched a video of a penguin trying to ninja kick a dude. So the odds are low, but they're never zero.
That makes some zero memes. Like my shrink said I shouldn't worry about X, and then it's got a picture of X.
No, my grandparents on my mother's side, they had a cellar that was filled with shelf stable stuff. Like they were canners, and they also had a farm. So they had like, if the shit was supposed to kick off, no matter what it was, hurricane, tornado, they lived in Missouri, so it was probably most likely to be a tornado. But like they were good, It's kind of like our house. Like we got a lot of shelf stable food, and then we have a backup generator to our well because we're on a well. So we're still gonna have water, and we're still gonna have chow, and our stove and oven is off propane, so we're good there as long as that don't blow up. Yep. Like I'm a prepper without even trying.
And as I said, for me, that used to just be considered normal, right? Like be ready for who knows what.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be zombies. It doesn't have to be Al Qaeda. It just could be any type of natural. Really, if you prepare for a natural disaster, you're prepared for all the other crazy shit: aliens, zombies, angels. If you're a supernatural fan, demons, whatever. Like
power outage,
the usual power outage. Like you're covered for all of it.
You talk about prepping for zombies or for aliens, and I'm like, an AT4 would be nice to have just laying around.
When we're talking for that, I'll talk offline.
So there's a funny thing. I was reading this story, and then we'll start talking about the movie that brought us here. And it's like a Portal fantasy robot. Like it was, somebody sent it to me as a beta read, and they've got this scene. And when it publishes, I'll try to circle back and get the author on as a guest. But he has this scene where they're like, this robot's fighting a demon, and so his robot, whatever, isn't doing enough. So he uses his portal magic to just go into his old unit's armory and just liberate a couple of AT4s. And I'm reading that, I'm like, cool. And then I started thinking about it. That poor freaking armory sergeant, you just made his day suck real bad because now you've got like all those AT4s missing. I mean, if you remember, there's a couple of bases right now that have some just missing pistols, and they've already got like, billboards up for a reward for information to recover lost items. So I read that kind of stuff, and I'm like, oh, that poor sergeant.
The way you just said that stuff real bad is all I can hear in my head is, I want a hot dog real bad.
Oh, Jennifer Coolidge? Was that Legally Blonde?
Yeah. So, all right. With that out of the way, Nick, are you excited for 2025? Or is it going to be another blah year?
I'm stoked because the last part of 2023 kind of sucked. And for the audience that doesn't remember, I had a stroke. 2024 has been a recovery year for me. I had a lot of obstacles in my way to get back to where I needed to be professionally, physically, mentally. I think I'm doing pretty good. And I'm ready for 2025, man.
So goal for 2025 for all of us: don't die.
Yeah, don't die. Well, according to the hospital, the doctors there, they're like, yeah, you should be a lot worse than you are. So we just have to make the assumption that the only thing that's going to kill you is you.
All right, Stabby, you were going to say something?
He was talking about how, he got back to where he needed to be mentally and physically and professionally, and I'm over here like, yeah, you took all my sanity. You took it all. You made me crazy along the way. That's all.
Holy crap. I just noticed your shirt.
The chaos coordinator?
Yes, how did I not notice that right away? That is beautiful. Did you have that made just for you, or was that already out there somewhere?
It's out there. They have a whole chaos coordinator section on the Etsy. So my little thing for my wrist, and I have the matching mouse pad, and I have the matching cup holder, and they all match my shirt. But I do like wearing my chaos coordinator shirt when we have to go through security at the airport. It's really funny.
My favorite is the scene where you've always got the guy, like when they're going through the airport and he's wearing the shirt, it's not gay when it's the TSA. And he's just standing there as a guy's, those are some of the most hilariously, probably staged, but most hilarious pictures I have seen come out of the creation of the post 9/11 TSA.
Well, you got whenever we're flying anywhere, I am the worst at this. Okay, we'll take off our shoes, we'll do all the things that we need to do, but I'll look back at my son and I'm like, hey, is your laptop and your switch and everything out of your backpack? It has to be out. And in the thing, did you put your phone, your keys, everything in the bucket? And I'll look at Nick. I'm like, okay, hon, everything's out of your pockets, belts off, keys in the thing, you're good to go. You're good to go. And he's like, yeah, we're good. And I'm like, all right, just remember if you beep to warn them about your leg. And I will be right about to walk into the Dance Dance Revolution scan, and I realize I never took off my knee brace, which has big metal hinges in it. And I'm like, yep, there it is. And so I have to double back to send my knee brace through while everybody else is going through. And every time TSA is sitting there going, chaos coordinator, huh?
Nice. The last plane I rode was the one that brought me home from Iraq. I haven't been on a plane since.
Well,
I'd rather
2025, you can come and see me and Nick.
We might put that on the calendar. But yeah, I haven't had a need to fly since then because everywhere family-wise, they're all up and down the East Coast. So it's half the time with the TSA and the waiting and stuff. I could drive there quicker than I could take the airport. And when I'm driving, I can listen to audiobooks. So that's my thing, right? But anyway, so are there any publications coming out for Apogee for 2025, Nick? You got some releases planned?
Yeah, we've got a few. By the time this airs, we probably have already successfully funded Quickwire, our speedster. And then we're going to be January. Yeah, we're going to be right into Phantom Hawk Resolute. And probably about halfway done, if not 3/4 of the way done with Corvid and Sparrow. Like 2025 is going to be a big year for us. We got a lot of releases planned. Solarium Prime 2.
Introducing Regent this year too.
I got to find the writer. I need a writer that can. It's probably going to be one of our guests, Jana, maybe. I don't know. Someone who's into Pendragon lore, Arthurian lore, and can help me out with that.
Wasn't Terry going to do that for you? Terry K. Joe?
I have Terry on board as well to talk about some things. I shouldn't have. I mentioned it way prematurely last year, and like Terry was like super excited about it. She was hitting me up like every day. I'm like, oh God, Terry, we're not quite there yet. She kept wanting to have a meeting to discuss it, and I'm like, I want to do this. I want to have this meeting. I want to be able to get this going, but like we're not there. Like as a company financially right now, we got our irons and other fires going right now. So, but 2025, yeah, this is going to be the year.
And so if you wonder why he's making projections for this, because obviously you're listening to it on Wednesday, January 8th, but we are recording it on the last day of November. So welcome from the past. We're talking to you. And we're going to record this assuming aliens didn't land on January 1st, right? Like that wasn't the big, January surprise and take over the world. So, all right, with that out of the way, obviously we brought you on to do a M3GAN movie review. But before we do that, we're going to show a word from our sponsor. So as tradition, Nick's Apogee Comics is going to be sponsoring this
Step into a world of heroes, villains, and unforgettable adventures with Apogee Comics. Whether you're here for the thrill of a new story, a trip down memory lane, or to build the ultimate collection, Apogee Comics delivers. Our stories captivate the imagination, bringing characters to life in ways that resonate deeply with fans. From the vibrant artwork to the compelling narratives, each comic is a journey into a world of adventure and wonder. Join a community of enthusiasts who share your passion and discover why Apogee Comics is a beloved name in the industry. Explore bold, diverse tales that push boundaries and bring unique voices to life. From groundbreaking superheroes to thought-provoking graphic novels, there's something for every kind of fan. These stories not only entertain but also challenge societal norms and inspire readers to see the world from different perspectives. With creators from various backgrounds, the richness of their experiences shines through in every panel and storyline. Whether you're a longtime comic book enthusiast or a newcomer, these diverse characters and creators offer a refreshing and inclusive take on the genre. Looking to invest in tomorrow's classics? Apogee Comics is your source for stunning art and stories destined to be treasures. Dive into a world where every page is a masterpiece and every issue holds the potential to become a coveted collector's item. From vintage editions to the latest releases, Apogee Comics offers a curated selection that appeals to both seasoned collectors and new enthusiasts. Discover the magic of comic book collecting with us today. Bring the joy of reading to a new generation, or rediscover the magic that inspired you as a kid. Join a passionate community of fans, collectors, and creators who make every page a shared adventure. Apogee Comics, where every story takes you higher. Discover your next favorite today. Visit apogeecomics.com and take the leap.
I like the big shout out to Rene Garza, who was the guy reading Bengali 3, and he was like, "Ooh, ah."
The fun fact, they actually spent a lot of money to make that commercial because they had to hire both a hand actor and a foot actor, and those are expensive. Like them feet people, they want lots of money. I don't know what that's about. I think it's kind of weird, but whatever.
I thought it was funny that my birth certificate was in the back of the one video.
Wait, what? Nick, what did you do?
Okay, so when my buddy, so the hand thumbing through the long box of comic books that are all Apogee. She had set up because I was doing some insurance stuff, so she brought out all the paperwork that I needed for it. So there was Social Security cards, divorce decrees, marriage certificates, birth certificates, all that stuff was there in the background. Now, luckily, I used cinematic mode on my phone when I was filming that, so it blurred everything in the background. It blurred it all, but you can tell that it's Social Security cards, birth certificates, marriage licenses, things like that. So that's why she's cracking.
It's mine.
Nice. All right. So with that out of the way, thank you for sponsoring the episode. If you like comics, graphic novels, check that out, dear listener. That is the height of comics creativity. Isn't that your logo? I seem to remember.
It is. We're the height of comic creativity.
In fact, I think that's on your website, isn't it? I think that's where I got it from.
Yeah, it is. Because Apogee is like the furthest height of a rotation of a satellite. So like the moon is at its apogee, the whatever's at its apogee. So we chose that as our kind of our catchphrase.
I looked it up. It's the height of independent comics. There we go.
There you go. Height of independent comics.
We had to throw that independent in there to distinguish you from all the weirdos out there. Looking at you, Marvel.
Yeah, I'm not corporate sponsored. I'm not shilling for the man, even though I'm shilling for the man. But you know what I'm saying. We keep it indie around here.
Picking up what you're laying down. I'm tracking like a VCR. All right. So let's talk about the movie M3GAN. That's what brought us here.
Hell yeah.
And we will go from there. So first, obviously the movie's called M3GAN. It's spelled with M3GAN instead of MEGAN. Directed by Gerard Johnstone. Budget cost $12 million. Earned $181 million in the box office. So I'd say that's pretty good. Duration is 102 minutes. It was released on December 7th, 2022 in LA, and then to the rest of the US in January 6th, 2023. It's distributed by Universal Pictures. And so here is the ad copy. It says, when robotics engineer Gemma becomes the guardian of her orphaned niece, Katie, she thinks her new invention, a robotic AI, will be a good companion. However, M3GAN begins to behave in unexpected ways. Dun, dun, dun. So did you agree with the blurb that we found?
That is very accurate, yes.
The dun 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 adds it takes it to the next level of creativity right there. That's just a little bit of my masterpiece. I think I need to be more dramatic next time, so I'll work on it for season 5.
So during season 5, we also get M3GAN 2.0. So we'll be able to come back later in the season and talk about the second one to this movie that we're talking about now.
Nice. All right, so obviously, one of the things that sells a movie is we're going to go over the trailer. So Nick, I'm going to remove the comic commercial. Can you show us that trailer?
Absolutely. Cue it up.
Katie, you lost your parents.
Welcome home.
You're my niece. I'm gonna do everything I can to make this place feel like home.
Just wish I could see them again.
I'm not equipped to handle this. I don't even take care of my own plants. I have this project at work. Do you want to see?
Yes.
Ever since I was little, I dreamed of this perfect toy that would protect a kid from ever feeling lonely or sad. This is M3GAN.
Hi, M3GAN. I'm Katie. It's nice to meet you, Katie. Do you want to hang out? Okay.
M3GAN, your goal is to protect Katie from harm, both physical and emotional. Is that a doll? Model 3 generative android. M3GAN for short.
I can't believe you made this. I love it.
Wanna hang out, yeah, sounds like fun.
Great job.
It's nice to have a friend.
It's honestly like she's part of the family now.
They could be building emotional connections that are too hard to untangle.
She's the happiest she's been since her parents died. Eat the toppings, Katie.
Research shows if you force a child to eat vegetables, they'll be less likely to choose those foods as adults.
Is that so?
Yes. Experts say...
M3GAN, turn off.
I thought we were having a conversation.
Does she talk? Make her say something.
Stop! Don't! M3GAN! You should probably run. M3GAN, she pushed Brandon onto the road. I won't let anything harm you.
It's nice to have a friend.
M3GAN, turn off.
Recalibrating response model. M3GAN!
It's nice to have a friend.
What's wrong with you? Don't worry, Katie. I won't let anything harm you. Ever again.
It's nice to have a friend.
All right, so would that sell you on the movie?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things going on with that. It's definitely horror themed. It's the one of our worst fears is AI gets a little too advanced, or technology gets a little too advanced where it starts making its own decisions. It's and it goes from 0 to 1,000 real quick when you watch it.
Yeah, it has a little bit of a slow start. One of the things I will say, when I was overseas, when we're talking about wanting a battle buddy, I mean, if they made a life-size version of her instead of like the toddler 10-year-old girl, well, technically she's not a toddler, the 10-year-old girl size, if you put her like, soldier size, Marine size, whatever, I know she's a little bit crazy, but I still want her on my team. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, she would definitely wreck shop in that environment.
But
Definitely say please and thank you.
Yeah, definitely be like, thank you. But I don't know, like the idea of like when she's killing at first, though, you're like, I mean, she's protecting her people, right? Like she's protecting Katie. So it didn't even seem as bad at first, but you knew that scene where she goes, "You should run now." You're like, "Oh, that shit's about to get real."
Oh yeah, with Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon was a little sociopath, right? Like
he deserved everything that happened to him.
He had it coming. Like she saved the world by killing that kid because you knew. And mommy was in denial. She's like, all boys are like that. And I'm like, can you take mom out too? Because she's part of the problem.
Yeah, she shouldn't reproduce at all.
But like when he first starts, and then the dog that's vicious, and the neighbor chick who enables the dog to attack people, and then calls the cops on the people complaining about her dog. Like, I'm okay. That's a justifiable kill in my book too. Like I love dogs, but
and that's what kicked off the whole thing was the dog attack because it like messed up her wiring or synapses or whatever was going on.
Oh yeah, because it bit her neck.
It bit her neck, so it created a a block of communication or something. But that's when right after that, and the dog gets pulled off, and what's her name?
Gemma.
Gemma comes and sees Katie and is like, "Oh, we need to do this." And then Megan's like, "Okay, her temperature's elevating. There's possible infection." Well, she looks at the dog owner, and there was a distinct look on that face, just like, "I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to mess you up. You hurt my Katie." So it's like a very overprotective pet, almost not even a pet. I don't even know how to classify it, but like she went into overprotective mode and she just ignored all of Asimov's rules right there.
Yeah, and so Asimov would not approve, and I'm gonna just throw this out there, like spoiler warnings, because it's gonna be hard to talk about this movie without throwing some spoilers out there, right?
Oh yeah, we're gonna dip our toe into spoiler territory. We're not
gonna.
Oh no,
we're going in. We're going in. We're going in. Nuts.
We're cannonballing it. We're cannonballing it. All right.
Hell yeah. So let's start off with this. The characters, obviously, Gemma's the aunt, Katie is the niece whose parents died in the opening scene. And that you could see how that it didn't even feel like, where they bend the parents just to get them out of the way. Like I could see that happening for people who weren't ready to drive in the snow, trying to go skiing. They stop in the middle because they don't know what they're doing, and a snowplow because they're on the wrong side of the road or whatever. Like I could see that
in the news every year. Every year you see that in the news.
Like people who don't like Mother Nature's, a harsh mistress, and if you don't respect it, she will definitely make you regret it, right?
She's
so like I had right, like my first girlfriend. So like I totally got that. I didn't feel like it was just. I mean, obviously it's a plot device, right? But like it didn't feel.
But it didn't feel like one.
Right. It felt like
a natural progression for the story.
Right. And the girl was like a spoiled little brat to begin with. Not listening, so it gave me shades of a child version of that. What's that movie where the logs come out of the back and it hits the people?
Final Destination.
Final Destination. Like it gave me kid version of that because like she was part of the problem having like her little shenanigans with her electronic pet, right?
Yeah.
So it was like Mr. Ruxpy or the little dolls that we had as kids that would record us.
Like a Furby.
Like it was a Furby, but AI version. It was an AI version, like advanced. So like I got that. The Katie, the actress, and I don't know who plays her, and I'm gonna be lazy and not look it up. But like that actress, normally I would say a lot of times a lot of the kid actors, like, they just don't act very well, partly because they just don't have the depth of life experience. Her affect came off as very flat when she's acting, but in the context of her character having suffered grief, like I felt like her acting was spot on for the situation as they created.
Yeah, especially as it goes more when they took Megan away and she starts acting out because now she has to deal with grief and she has to deal with anger. She has to deal with all those stages, and she hits Gemma and she's like throwing chairs about. Yeah.
So and then the girl that played Gemma, or excuse me, the girl that played Megan, like she did the robot thing very, very well.
She's a dancer.
I could see that because especially when she's chasing Randy or Brandy or whatever the dude's name was that she ripped the ear off of.
She was hired because she could run on all fours.
Right, that scene, and then her dress just flopping around while she's doing it, and I mean, I was just like, "Oh, this creepy as f," and I'm here for it.
Yeah, when any humanoid-looking thing starts running on all fours like it's damn cheetah, yeah, your butthole should pucker.
So I will say,
know something you don't.
Gemma, the actress that played her, really good as well. Like I have zero complaints about the acting, and sometimes where sometimes it's like, okay, they feel a little weird, but if you've met any tech bros or you've met anybody in like IT, like the acting felt like every computer nerd you've ever met. Right.
Yeah,
like,
there was a touch of social disconnect there.
Because
most your IT people, yeah, because if you've, like you said, if you've met any tech bro, if you've met any IT person, anybody that works in that realm, they're more focused on their work as opposed to like social and interpersonal interactions. So they come off as off, and she sold that. She's like, oh God, I don't know what to do. Eat your cereal, I guess.
So do you feel like the actors that were cast for the various characters, do you think they pulled it off?
Yeah, they definitely sold their characters well. I mean, even the secondary characters.
Like David, like I thought that actor, whoever he was that played the boss.
Yeah, he was really good. Whoever's I worked in the tech field with being a graphic designer in my early days, and I decided I didn't like it. Very part of course for how a boss of anything having to do with tech is, because they want the latest and greatest thing. They wanted it yesterday and they can't wait, and they're always worrying about the competition. So like the actor who played that is just sold all those aspects and made him a very believable character in that role.
Wasn't he the actors from Community College?
No. The show Community?
Yeah, Community.
Yeah, that is, I don't have the name, but it's the same guy that played, what the hell? He was in The Hangover. He started out as,
I feel like
the guy that we've seen him in a lot of things. Hold on, let me look up his name real quick. Interesting background is that he started his official career as a doctor, and then got into stand-up comedy and things like that. So, like, talk about a weird turn of events, right?
Yeah. So I thought the actors did a spot-on job. I liked, since we're talking about the character actors, the betrayal at the end with the personal assistant. Like, I did not see that coming. I did not see that coming.
Yeah. That was kind of a shock, but then when you saw it, you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense because his boss is a dick. Nobody respects him.
Yeah, but the beautiful thing of that is one of my problems with horror movies is at the end, it's like, in reality, that dude, whoever survives, is going to either end up in a psych ward or in jail because they're going to blame everything on that guy, right?
Right.
That corporate espionage gives them the perfect out. Like, hey, my code is not the problem. This dude sabotaged us because he was a spy, and then the robot went rogue and did all these things, and it's all that guy's fault. You can't try him, though, because he's dead, because the robot that he corrupted killed him, right?
Yeah, because Megan offed him.
Right, but like you could pin the blame on him. So without even trying to, they gave you a solution to the what happens when the credits roll, right? Because most of the time,
I love how she pegged it on him too. Like she was very analytical and logical, and I'm like, it was definitely computer brain working the problem. She's like, oh well, your colleagues didn't respect you, your boss treated you like crap, and then you went nuts and you killed him, and then I don't know if you could actually. You took the life of evidence. I don't know if you could live your life like that. And then just whoop, gone. Arterial bleed all over the elevator.
And the Gemma doesn't even have to know that happened. All she has to do is, I don't know what happened with the code. It didn't behave like this. We didn't code it to do this. And then as you dive deeper, anybody investigating is going to find that corporate espionage. And bada bing, bada boom. You've got your...
Yeah, and they're going to completely overlook the ghost in the machine, which is something that they've talked about with AI for years, where eventually it's going to get so damn smart that it's going to be autonomous. it's gonna form sentience. What we have right now is not sentience. Or
sentience it's the word is sapient.
Sapiens. Yeah. As MD Bonchon
Right.
had said in a previous episode. I'm still trying to learn the vernacular. I've always used it as sentience, but
everybody in AI, or excuse me, everyone in sci-fi has used sentient for generations.
And apparently we've been using it wrong. So it's sapience.
Yep. At least we didn't have parsecs as a unit of speed instead of a measure of.
It's a unit of measure, and then they tried to explain it in the Han Solo movie, and I think they did a pretty good job of explaining it because they were utilizing wormholes, which kind of makes sense, I guess. I don't know. It's Star Wars, man.
There's enough to hang your hat on to give you plausible deniability for that one, but
definitely.
Yeah, I like that they gave you an answer where you can feel like, okay, what happens when the credits roll, right? I liked her Iron Giant robot that she had, like the Rock'em Sock'em robot, and she's like, yeah, I built that in college, and I'm like, holy crap, you just set her up as a genius. Like if you didn't already need that, right?
Yeah, it's very Tony Stark level when she introduces Bruce, and if as soon as you saw that, you had to know that was going to be something that was going to come back.
Chekhov's gun.
It was going to be a cult.
Chekhov's gun.
Right? The guns over the mantle. Yeah.
Yeah, it gave me very Rock'em Sock'em robot vibe for Bruce.
I want a Bruce.
Me too. I mean, I don't even care if you have to manually do it. Like, I want someone else to have one, and we can like air punch the crap out of each other and see whose BattleBot wins.
Well, the whole apparatus of how it functioned was these two power gloves, and it was so cool. It's like here's how you turn it on.
Remember the gloves that Nintendo had back in the day?
Yeah, it was the power glove.
Right. I like that. It was a callback.
I was like, this is awesome. This is definitely a kid of the 80s.
Absolutely. Whoever wrote this. All right. So did you think the movie paced itself well? It had a little bit of a slow burn, but I think it was as much a psychological horror as it was just a, slasher. And psych horrors need a slow burn, I think, because you have to establish the stakes.
I think you're absolutely right on that one. This particular plot, this story was driven with the premise of a slow burn. It was character development. A lot of people call it a slow burn, but I call it character development and world building. So you need to establish the world, you need to establish the characters, you need to establish the rules, and then you can dial it to 11, and then just let the freak flag fly. There's a lot of F's there in that. So I think it was very necessary. I don't think this would have worked if you just like 20 minutes in and just let it off the burners, I don't think it would have worked.
Yeah. So that worked for me. I like the pacing. I like the way they shot the film. Like as far as like cinematography goes, I thought it was spot on. Especially that scene in the woods. They could have gone full Blair Witch Project and made me hate it and want to like curl my lunch up. But none of that shaky crap. It felt smooth without it feeling like, okay, this is clearly a soundstage.
Yeah, it was definitely on theme for what they were trying to set up for the film. I think a shaky cam would have definitely thrown the audience off, even if they were trying to do it from the perspective of M3GAN running on all fours. I don't think it would have worked because that's not what they established earlier on in the movie.
But yeah, it worked for me. So I have zero complaints there. I like the pacing. I felt like I said, I felt like that was a good route the way they did it. The plot idea, I mean, it's so on point. It's kind of morphing into what we've been sort of hinting at all afternoon or all evening, whatever. Like the idea of robots and where we're going with that. Like this is stuff smart people smarter than us are thinking about. Like what does this look like? How do we build protections? I mean, as far back as Asimov back in the day was thinking about that with the rules of robotics, right? Like,
right.
And this kind of was a reinterpretation or another look at it through a modern lens. And they all come to the same conclusions.
And the thing with M3GAN is like she followed the first 3 rules of robotics as like the 4th rule. She just kind of like, no, I'm not doing that.
So what gets them all the time is the self-learning thing. It gives them an out so they can teach themselves new ways. Like I didn't kill humans. I, violate that rule. I protected my person I'm paired with.
Yeah. It's almost like, it almost becomes like a symbiotic or in some points parasitic type relationship where you got to protect the host, so she was she was given a task: protect Katie at all costs, emotionally and physically. And she took that to the letter. She went a little too far, because she didn't learn de-escalation techniques. She's just ripping ears off and shit. But
yeah, I mean, the kid had it coming though. For him, I'm like, yep, no, totally had it coming. No complaints.
And they set that kid up, that character up, so you were just like, nah, I kind of side with the robot on this one, because the kid was such a dick, and he was coming off a little grapey, especially when M3GAN was knocked down. He was like, oh, so okay, let's see what you got. And I'm like, oh, that's a little weird for a kid. And then she ripped his ear off, and I'm like, yeah, he had it coming.
Yeah, and that was that was the cool part about it though, was like, she's obviously killing, killing the way it went down at the end was a problem, but it starts out where like, okay, those guys just need to kill him. Like, I get it.
That's the thing, is that I don't think her intent was to kill Brandon. It was definitely to maim him and disfigure him.
Well, no, but I mean, it was self-defense. Like, he was trying to attack. Like, he had the good son vibes going on. Like, if I dropped you, could you fly?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, he did that. Was it Macaulay Culkin that played that? Like, he gave me those.
Oh, yeah. Very creepy.
So, like, you got the impression bad things were going to happen to Katie if she didn't step in. Right.
Oh, and that was really interesting writing from the storyteller perspective, is that they kept what M3GAN was doing, the off the cuff stuff like killing Brandon, and even when she encounters Gemma later on in the movie, try to keep Katie separate from it to try and keep her innocence almost. Like, there was something really nurturing and caring about that in a weird way.
So this is the movie poster. This is in long shots, you'll see the rest of her dress, and then you got the credits for the movie cover. But this is the poster that's floating around. Obviously, this is a new movie, so it's in the days where you don't really have like the huge movie posters outside the movie theaters, because most people are watching stuff at home nowadays. But I definitely, she's got that like uncanny valley going on, where it's like with the eyes, the way they did it, it's like, okay, is it human, but is it not? Like, I think they did a lot of work on however they did the props and prosthetics and all that to make her have that kind of skirt.
It gives off Village of the Damned vibes. With how she's set up. Yeah.
So I love the poster. That was actually what grabbed my attention. So these are the characters. Obviously, Gemma is the aunt, M3GAN is the robot, Katie is the girl, and David is the boss. So these are the three. So the actress that plays her physically is on the left, and the actress that does the voices is on the right. So apparently the young girl didn't do the voices. It kind of makes sense since her this is obviously Katie. It kind of makes sense.
No, that's not Katie. That is the girl that does the physical for M3GAN. That's
Katie. No, that's Katie.
That's not Katie.
That's not Katie. That's the dancer Amy Donald. That is Amy Donald. She is a competitive dancer, and yep,
that's Katie. I mean, that looks the same to me. I'll take your word for it, but
nope. That's Amy Donald. That's the dancer that plays the physical form of M3GAN, and then Jenna Davis does the voice for her.
Jenna, not Gina. I was thinking Gina Davis for some reason.
No, Jenna Davis. She's like a YouTuber and whatnot.
And that's obviously her doing the crawling stuff.
So that was during a dance competition, and I guess James Wan and all of them saw her in that dance competition, and they were like, that's who we want.
All right, so can you at least give me that freaking little girl that you're saying was actually the dancer looks a little bit like Katie?
I mean, a little bit, but if you look, hold on. I sent you the actual movie poster from the movie theater down the street from me. And
okay, I'll show that in a second.
So let me pull up Katie real quick. Okay, hold on.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I like the way they did it. I thought, normally the child acting, it's crap and it shows. I thought they did a good job.
So her name is Violet McGraw. The girl that plays Katie is Violet McGraw.
She's got a bright future ahead of her. She was awesome.
Well, both of her parents are actors too.
All right, so this is the movie poster that actually was at a theater near Stabby. So see what I mean? It's the close up of the doll with the information. But like I said, I thought they did a phenomenal job on the casting, on the actors and actresses. Even the dopey intern who ended up being the corporate spy. Like, I was sold on all of it. All right, so we've got that out of the way. One of the things I liked.
I'm sending you the picture of Katie and the actor from M3GAN together so you can see.
Okay. One of the things I like is it talks about like the concept of like robots and what that means, right? Like, and that is something, we're going to have to start thinking more about. Like, there's the running joke you see floating around on the meme. It's like, great news. The company that makes the love dolls, shall we say, says they're no longer able to kill you. We fixed the bug. And I'm like, wait a minute, that was an option the first time around? So like, I like robots are in the general consciousness, right? Like what that means, what that's going to look like. Everybody's seen the General Dynamics video where they've got the robot dog looking thing and they're hitting it with the pole. And they covered some of that in this, where they're kicking it over.
Thank you to my Alexa and Siri.
Right. Like, so first off, like you want to know how you get Skynet? Because this is kind of how you get Skynet. But like
they definitely nailed it with how they test it, because even my older brother was in the Air Force and he was a firefighter, so he worked closely with the robotics team in case anything caught fire. And he was like, no, they really do poke them with sticks and try to push them over so that way they get their footing right and stuff on robotics that would, walk in to bomb situations and whatnot. So they nailed it on the testing when they were poking her and pushing her.
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of cool. I like when they first woke up M3GAN and she's talking to the president of the company. She's like, "Are you my daddy?" That was both creepy and adorable at the same time.
Sugarcoating them. She's like, "Oh, well, you're the owner of the company, David, so I guess I would call you daddy." Like she was like working him.
Right. So this is the actress that plays Katie on the right, and Caddy, I guess. It's a weird name for a girl, Cady. They said Katie, like you would think, short for Caitlin, but it's just spelled weird. And then on the left is the girl, the dancer that plays M3GAN. Yes. And I see some similarities, so I can see like if you zoom in on the faces, like okay, you don't have to feel bad if you mix them up, because look at the nose is similar, like they could be related.
Yeah, the distinguishing feature is the teeth.
Their teeth are different, and I think that's what keeps that really shows you the difference between who's who.
Yeah, I can see it. All right, so let's get the young ladies off the screen. There we go.
That was weird.
What's that?
The way you split us, it was weird.
Yeah, I hit the wrong button. It happens. Premature button pushing. There's a pill for it, though. We're all good. All right, so there goes our family-friendly rating. So one of the other things, like that I have never seen considered, because obviously we talk about we've mentioned it with Asimov's rules for robotics, the idea of the intersection of robotics and ethics, right? Like, what does that look like? But you see that applied at a different angle, where how that incorporates into families. Because like I grew up with the Jetsons and Rosie, the maid or whatever, right? Like she's legit. Like I want her to help clean my house. But then you see this little girl doll, M3GAN, and you're like, okay, maybe not. And then the scene, so like her parents die, and one of the underlying points that gets the shrink involved is the dad, the deceased father's parents are like, I don't like the aunt. She's too young. She's not living a child-friendly life or whatever. Like, we want to take custody. They didn't want to take custody right away. They had nothing to do with it. And then once she's established, like, oh, by the way, we want to take her from you. And so she's like, oh, hell no, bet, right? Like, we're going to do this. And so the shrink is obviously involved because the grandparents hire her to come investigate. So one, she's going in there with an agenda, and we've all met kind of mental health professionals that are kind of like that. I'm like, yeah, you just wanted to punch her. But there's this scene where they're watching Megan and Katie interact in the one-way mirror room, right? And she's talking about like transference, like the idea when young people experience loss, they want to transfer that love onto someone else to kind of fill that role. So her mother died, and it's supposed to be the aunt who's the surrogate mother, but because they put the doll in it, now she's bonded with the doll. And like that is not something I've ever seen addressed in robot movies. Now it might be out there, and I just haven't watched enough of them. But I thought that was kind of interesting, like how they do.
We saw that in I Am Mother.
Yeah, but like there was no transference because the baby was just raised in essentially a test tube laboratory, so that was her only.
Yeah,
you see it in AI when they purchased David because their child died.
Yeah, they lost their son.
And
so
they can't do it.
It's not a groundbreaking.
I just never seen it addressed in that way. Like I thought it was like, holy crap. I kind of start thinking about what does it mean when we start inviting this into our lives? Like, because most of the time when you talk about inviting robotics into lives, it's surrogate pets, essentially. Like they're dog shaped.
Right.
And so, but they just, it's a dog that's not going to die on you. Right.
And we're just kind of leading that into something else, like a humanoid type thing, like Megan,
right,
which probably would make that transition a little bit easier. The brain doesn't have to do so much work. Like with a pet, it's like, oh, well, you lost your whole family. Here's a puppy. And it's like, oh, okay. It's like, it's a little different. You get somebody that gets into your life that's meant to help you mentally and emotionally transition from this loss and talk to and become a friend, and it's humanoid and looks very similar to how you look. That would probably be a lot easier. And I think also that is what makes this so much scarier.
Yeah, and it definitely gets you thinking. And I like that. I was like, okay, so what does that look like? And is this psychologically healthy? And then, of course, there is the intersection of science and profit, right? Because like she just wants to make the cool big thing to move it forward. And the AI or the toy company is like, no, we got to make money. Like it's just the next, like make it cheaper, make it quicker, make it, take off the frill.
It's going to corporate, bro.
Right. And she's like, as a one-off, like, no, this is going to be the last toy you ever have to buy. And I'm like, holy crap, that's a marketing angle. But corporate's never going for it because they make things less sturdy because they want it to break. So you have to keep buying. It's forced obsolescence, essentially. It's a corporate. Apple's been sued.
The line that I love from the movie is when David's talking to Jem and he's like, more or less expensive than a Tesla.
Oh, I laughed so hard at that scene.
Oh. It's like, okay, is it more or less than $100,000 car? And then later on, they tell you that it's going to market at $10,000.
So Caden he goes, Mom, if it's the last toy and, what if it breaks? What if you want it to do something different? I'm like, that is where you get Build-A-Bear, where you can go and buy clothes for them. You get things like downloadable content. That's how they keep making money off of you on the upgrades, on the downloads, on this, that, and the other. Yeah. That is how they're going to keep your Megan bringing in more money. So yeah, they're going to get that initial $10,000 for you buying the doll. But if you want your doll to do X, Y, and Z, you need to pay X amount for that upgrade.
Yeah, and
that's where they're going to go.
Backflip, that's $200.
But I also like one of the things it talked about is the almost surrogate parroting, because like they were getting on Katie for not washing her hands when she goes to the bathroom, and suddenly you've got that whole montage where she goes to the bathroom and Megan's standing out the door. Flush the toilet, put the seat down. Well, not put the seat down because it's girls, but you know what I mean? Like all those mantras you as parents say to your kids. You can tell I have boys because that was where my mind went to with the bathroom. Put the damn
Put the
seat
seat down.
But she's like, wash your hands and all the things, and like she's gamifying it for the girl. And on the one hand, I'm like kids will listen to sometimes other people easier than they listen to their parents because they, you know what I mean? Like it's, well, this is my friend. They're not just, you know, being mean. So if they say it, maybe it really does matter. And so on some hand, like I could see the good of it, but then just like any technology, I'm like I could see how it could be too much. Like kids are already on electronics too much, right? Like,
yeah, and then like you definitely see it when they're all talking and they have M3GAN hooked up to the computer to see all the changes that have happened since she was downloading content off of the internet. She tells her, she's like, we did not tell you how to deal with something as serious as death. And she's like, oh, I found it on the internet. She goes, well, you need to have like we need a protocol. And the other girl's like, why isn't there a protocol? And she goes, because we didn't have time. And that was the moment where you're like, what else didn't they have time for?
But that's just it. When you cut one of the big things that always comes in these like robot AI, sentient sapiens arguments is because they rush development to cut corners, and it always bites them in the butt. Whenever you hear we didn't have time or we didn't have that in the budget, you know shit's about to get real, and it'll be that reason why.
And that was the moment, because she sat there and she had that conversation about death with Katie, and she told Katie to tell her stories about her mom, and she told her, I'll hold on to your memories for you so that way you don't forget, because I'll remember. And it was a whole thing, and it was beautiful, and it was a moment where even the adults were like, wow. And then after that, she's like, well, we didn't have time to put that programming in her. So what other programming did you forget to put in her because you were trying to rush this? And then you attached it to your niece, and now you're stuck with it.
But yeah, so the part of that, the part that I liked though was that, like, one of the things that gets you, especially if you don't have a lot of pictures and videos, home videos or whatever, is like when you've lost people, like there comes a point where like you stop remembering certain things. Like I go through that, like with some of the people I served with, like I remember them, but I couldn't tell you how they sounded anymore. And so to be able to, like,
first.
Yeah, or you know, like the little details. And so like to be able to record that, like there's already a guy in Germany, or maybe it was a lady, who like they lost someone close to them, so they basically created an AI program that would read through all of the entire text history the two had, and now when she texts this number, or whoever, I guess I don't remember, I remember reading about it out of Germany, like it'll reply, but it's not sentient, it's more formulaic, right? Like it's reading patterns. But I mean, we've already
there's AI programs that are being developed right now to recreate lost loved ones with voices, facial recognition, movement, things like that. I want to say it's scary technology, but I think it would be more of a hindrance for the grieving process than it would be a benefit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about it. Like, there's parts of those people I served with that I would kill to experience again. But the flip side of that,
I don't delete any of your guys' voicemails.
But like the flip side of that is like you said, that's good. Like you said, Nick, is like, does it hinder your ability to let go, to move on, if you're constantly dwelling there, right? I mean, I don't know. Like there are certain things where some memories that you want to record it for posterity, and others it's like, I mean, am I dwelling? Is this healthy? And you come up with that. You mentioned that, but you come up against that a lot in this movie with M3GAN and Katie together, and like
especially with the voice replication. Like,
do you remember?
I think if you can voice replicate, you know, past loved ones based on, and M3GAN knew everything about Katie and her family and Gemma within the span of 30 seconds because she's connected to the internet. You know, she definitely pulled an Ultron. You know, so if she really wanted to be manipulative, even more so than she was, she could start replicating voice patterns of her father and mother, and possibly creating AI imagery. You know, so maybe we'll see that in the sequel. I don't know, but
and that's
where my mind.
when you think like, your search history affects things, and I'm just thinking about every, infantry barracks I've ever been at. And I'm like, that's how you get a homicidal, genocidal little robot deal going on, right? Like, imagine if it wasn't given to someone healthy and it was pairing with them.
All I'm saying is we all had Furbies in the 90s, and at 3 o'clock in the morning when the batteries were dying, we all knew there was a demon in the house. So if that wasn't enough to ward us off of robots, and we're still continuing down a path to have, helper robots coming into our house, I think it's our own fault.
So I remember the Teddy Ruxpin thing, because that was for a while like, oh, that's a national security. And now we're like, yeah, we don't care. Let's just bring it into the Pentagon. I don't care.
It's something else. It's definitely something else, because I've noticed in the last couple of weeks, since all of we own all Apple products. So our computers, our tablets, our laptops, our phones, our watches, everything's Apple products. So we have a whole lot of and I'm not going to say it out loud because she'll trigger, especially in the office, SIRI. We noticed that she randomly started talking recently, and we were like, what is going on? I didn't even say her name. I didn't ask a question. What is going on? And it's not just my phone. It's his phone. It's our watch. It's our tablets. It's every room we're in, because we have Apple TV. And I'm like, why does she keep randomly turning on and saying she can't help us with whatever we happen to be talking about at that moment? And it turns out that our dog's name is Chewy. And when we say it fast enough, when we're like getting on our dog, like, hey, stop chewing on that. And we're, hey, Chewy, she thinks we're saying her name. And so she automatically turns on and she starts, yeah, I can help you with that. And I'm like, with what? So it turns out that she's become more sensitive. So I'm a lot more cautious around my phone and my tablet and everything right now. And I think it really comes down to I'm always really polite with them.
So I remember
and my Alexas.
I remember in the 80s where everyone was paranoid that either the Russians or the CIA under Hoover or whatever, like everyone was going to spy on you. And that was a big deal. And now we're like, no, spy on us harder, daddy. Let me put the A word and the S word. And, and those are actually the names of the programs that if I say you will hate me.
Spy on me harder, daddy.
Right. And so like, now imagine the robots are going to be doing that. And not only that, it could record full audio and visual of you going about your day. And I'm just like, what does this look like when this robot gets hacked? Mm-hmm. And the mark of a good movie is we've essentially been, talking, we at least 40 minutes for an hour, 102 minutes. So like almost half as long as a movie we've spent just discussing it, because there's so much there, because it makes you think, right? Like
that's the point of the movie, though. It fills that storytelling trope of
it's almost like a placeholder for a conversation.
It is. And in many conversations, you could talk about this ad nauseum about the dangers of advanced technology, not necessarily AI, but just advanced technology as a whole. We're getting to the point now where technology or simulated AI, which has no sapience, can recreate images and videos just based off pictures, and voices based off recordings. Like James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader, sold his voice rights to Lucasfilm Disney to use his voice as Darth Vader for the next whenever. So like we're definitely dealing with dangers of technology and ethical use of technology and things like that. So I think that's probably the biggest part of this movie, is that it's definitely a cautionary tale, as most advanced technology movies are. Terminator, M3GAN, iRobot.
Well, we've seen it through the entirety. We've seen it through the entirety of the election process. How many deep fake videos did we all see?
I saw a lot of them. They were awesome.
Of them saying things about each other that were never said. Songs of one candidate singing about the other candidate. And you see them and it sounds like them, but you know it's not them. And it's super weird. And it's like, if they can do that just based off of the AI listening in, because I've seen several of the music videos with the voices dubbed basically to sound like one candidate or the other, and it says right in the bottom, it's like, hey, by the way, this is just a parody. We used AI. We asked them to write a song with this person's voice. And the AI generator came up not just with the song and the lyrics, but also the voice of said candidates. And if they can do that to, a former president and a vice president, what else can they do?
But that's just it. Like, this kind of technology makes you question the very nature of reality. And what does that mean for society? Like, we've basically, with this kind of tech, we'll become a post-truth society, because what's to say what's real and what's not when you can AI generate it, or, the robot can simulate it, or, insert ad nauseum. And then what does this do for, we're not a podcast that gets political or goes into socioeconomic issues, but anybody that's looked at demographic data will tell you that almost all advanced countries, like, we're not at birth rate. Like, so the birth rate's 2.1 kids per couple is what you need to replace. We're down to almost 1% or less kids per couple. And so we're way below replacement rates across the developed world. Now, throw in robots that can simulate all the emotions you would get with your partner that you love. And what does this do to the human reproduction as a society? And one of the things Elon Musk talks about when he talks about, because all our lives we grew up, global warming, in the 70s and 80s and the early 90s, it was global cooling. We're not taking a stance on that, people. But
we just saying,
but we've watched all this stuff develop. And so there was a movement how could I have kids, right? The anti-natalist movement. How could you bring kids into this world? And I've heard that a lot since I was in probably high school paying attention. Now throw in that mentality on top of why do I need to take a chance on a girl when I could just buy this robot and be my partner and she'll always love me? Because you need a friends and family and partners or whatever. They're going to push back enough to say, is that really the best you could do, JR? Maybe if you drank a little less and walked a little more, you'd live a little longer and you'd write more books. And maybe if you just put the Xbox down, you're like you get that because they love you, right?
That ain't a life worth living, man.
The robots can tell you what you want to hear.
Right.
And what does it do to society?
But here's the thing, is it's not just political figures. It's not just people high in the food chain, Perfect example is just last year, my ex-sister-in-law gave me a ring. She's like, it was the weirdest thing today, sis. And I'm like, why? What's going on? She's like, I got a scammer call today. I'm like, oh, please tell me you mess with them, because we love messing with the scammers. And she goes, I couldn't bring myself to, because it was myself talking to myself. I was like, what? She goes, they tried to scam me with my own voice. Apparently, said scammer will get your family member's voice, and they'll call you and be like, oh my God, there was an accident. I need money. I need you to send it to me, yada, yada, yada. And you think that it's your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister, but they messed up and they called her with her own voice.
Or it'll mess you up if they call you after they die, but then they're using their voice again. I'm thinking about that because there's this Irish guy who just died recently, and he knew he was dying because it's some sort of terminal illness. And so he recorded a video of him pounding on wood. It's like, hey, what are you doing? Let me out. It's dark in here. Why are you being mean to me? Right? It's a joke. Now, obviously the family kind of knew about it because he was known to be a jokester. But what if that wasn't oh, wait, is this real? Just in general over the phone, if you don't wire me X number of dollars, your insert family member is going to get it, right? It goes dystopian very, very quickly. Have you seen the movie Demolition Man?
Oh yeah.
Wesley Snipes' character talks about the fat governor guy, and he's like, it's like an evil version of Mr. Rogers. Like, that's what the M3GAN kind of gave me vibes of, right? Like, although I don't think she was truly evil. Like, she was constantly adapting to the situations.
I think she was overprotective of Katie at the beginning, but then she became overprotected of herself, to the extent where it was like, it's you or me. It's you or me. And I'm going to pick me every time. And I'm a robot and I'm stronger, I'm faster, and I'm more clever. And nobody's going to believe that the robot did it. So,
well, the really scary part was when she was like, if you kill me, like, they're going to shut you off or whatever. And she goes, yeah, but I could turn you into a vegetable. And then I'm your caregiver.
Yeah, she
and I was like, holy crap, that was creepy.
And then the whole time, that one assistant chick is sitting there, she's staring at her phone, and she's like, I didn't call her and talk to her. And the whole time it was M3GAN taking on the voice of her assistant, calling through her assistant's phone to talk to Gemma. And the assistant had no clue any of it was happening.
The other cool thing where they showed where slowly M3GAN became bad. Remember when she did all those things and then they went to go check back the logs and she deleted her own memory logs?
Yep. They were corrupted, yeah.
And I was just like, holy crap, that's devious.
Yep.
But again, it sets up for the sequel because you can't blame Gemma. You can't blame M3GAN. It was the corrupted file because that guy was stealing. His corporate espionage that caused this.
So the boy was bringing it up while we were watching the movies. Like, shouldn't there be a failsafe, like a self-destruct of some kind? Not like exploding, but like a file or something like that. And I had to explain. I'm like, look what she just did with her own internal protocols. If there's a code for it, she's found a way to get into her own code and alter the code. That's how smart this AI is, or this programming is.
They need to put that self-destruct button on the remote.
Yeah, it needs to be on a remote. Like, you got crazy, boom.
But you see that remember when like there's a power play because the girl doesn't want to it's very clearly that M3GAN at some point becomes a drug for Katie, right? Like she's addicted almost. And so they're trying to have a conversation, but Katie is ignoring family in real life to play with this doll. And so Gemma's like, turn off, Katie. And the daughter's like, no, turn on, turn off, turn on. And that's where you saw in the trailer, she's like, we were having a conversation in that really nice voice, but it was like creepy. And so you start to see some of that, like where she's reimagining her own rules and she never violates them as far as her understanding is. She just starts slowly reinterpreting with new data. And it's just, holy crap. She adjusts. And that makes it even creepier. Like I said, they did a good job of like, obviously it was a real female young lady that was doing the acting for M3GAN, but they did it enough that it still felt like that uncanny valley was there, even though subconsciously I'm getting that feeling, but I know there's a person. This is an actual person. But they, the way they did her eyelashes, where they painted it on with the makeup, and it just looked, it gave it that very doll-like appearance and made it kind of feel uncanny valley, even though it's a person.
Yeah, if you go through some of the behind the scene pictures, you see her like in her wig cap she has like silicone neck that comes up to her chin, and in between takes they have to take off the M3GAN face so she can like breathe and relax and eat and drink, and then when it's time to start filming, they put the M3GAN face back on. And the fact that it fits so perfectly with her frame and everything, it's really creepy when you know the context behind it, how easy it would be for somebody to put your face on.
Yeah, that could get creepy real quick too. Because, I can't date the prom queen, so I'll just make a doll that looks like the prom queen, right? Like it gets...
There's an entire industry based on that.
Yep.
We don't want to talk about that here.
Nope.
I was...
But my theory on the subject is if it's that easy to make that young actress be able to put on and take off the M3GAN face, that easy that if they took your face, somebody took your face, made that same type of mask, right? And now they're putting on a JR face or a Nick face or a Stabby face, and they go and they rob a bank. They're not trying to hide your face because it's your face. And as soon as they're out of that bank, they're taking that mask right back off, and they don't look anything like you. Now you're the one sitting in prison because they have you on camera proving that you were in the bank.
Yeah, it's oh my God, that's the fun thing. So I mean, it makes us think. We could keep going, but we're at an hour and a half, and we're trying to do better at timing these episodes so it doesn't become like a full-time job just to listen.
These off topics.
Well, I mean, I think everything we talked about today was on topic, though.
Oh, absolutely, it was. It was absolutely on topic. It's just, we're diving into something. Yeah, you got to look at it this way. So there's people that will spend days, hours, months, years evaluating particular topics like focus groups, things like that, or certain historical events. So the same thing can be said about movies. There's people that write doctoral theses on these types of things, about, man versus machine, man versus the future, man versus self, all the story tropes. And so like, it's not unheard of, nor is it crazy that we've gone an hour and a half into this topic and we barely scratched the surface of the things that we could go into, because it's such a deep topic. Even though it's an hour and a half movie, we could spend multiple episodes going into this at an hour, 2 hours a piece, easily.
Yeah. So overall, go ahead, Stabby.
I was going to say, so how we should end this episode is all three of us make a prediction on how we think M3GAN 2.0 is going to go. From what we know about her in this one, what we think our predictions will be on how it continues in 2.0. And then after it comes out and we see it, we all come back and see whose prediction was correct.
All right. So before we do that, though, let's give an overall assessment. So obviously, I'm raving about it. I loved it. I'm not normally a horror person, or psychological horror, but dude, I was all in from jump. So I dug it. This is one of those ones I could see watching again. And I actually bought a physical copy because I wanted it in my collection.
I'm starting to rub off on you, JR.
This is a 5 for me. So Stabby, give us your rating, and then Billy Bob Nicholas over there is going to give us his Stabby ratings.
M3GAN gets all 5 knives from Stabby.
Excellent. Now, Nick, you've been waiting for this moment.
All right, let's go through the drive-in numbers here. All right. No aardvarking. That's a thumbs down on me. No aardvarking in this movie. One dead dog, one dead annoying neighbor pressure washed to death, one stabbed through boss or CEO, one killed traitor. Drive-in nominee for Best Picture goes to Ear Foo. Okay, we'll go through the foos. We have ear foo, we have arm breaking foo, we have choking foo. Drive-in nominees for Best Picture goes to the producer, James Wan, creator of certain properties like the Conjuring universe and Insidious. The director, who did a really good job of making a doll come to life and be scary as hell. The actress who played Gemma, who did a really good job of being a disconnected humanoid who's involved in her own work, wanting to create things through science. And then also the girl that played Katie, who was a grieving orphan who's trying to reconnect with humanity in some way, and unfortunately it's a doll. Also, I'd like to give a big shout out to the girl that played M3GAN, because she was creepy as hell, as how she moved, especially when she was dancing in the hallway before she killed David. And then Donald. Who?
Amy Donald.
Amy Donald. And then also how she ran like a damn leopard going after Brandon. So I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Nick says, check it out.
Excellent. Now, with that out of the way, so I'm going to say One, I suspect I've said this the whole time. We've talked about like they set up the hook so perfectly. The dead intern / assistant, whatever his official role in the company was, is going to be blamed for M3GAN going haywire. The company's going to be like, this gets us a lot of press, so now we know what the technology is capable of, and they're gonna build a new one with safety features in mind, and they're gonna try too hard to overcorrect, and they're gonna build a web of contradictory core programming tenets that conflict with each other and drive the robot mad, and then M3GAN 2.0 is gonna go like full murder hobo. You're both muted, so one of you needs to unmute for your
All
problem.
right. I don't disagree with anything you said. I think that's very similar to what I was thinking. It's going to be very Terminator 2, where Cyberdyne Systems took the pre-existing ARM and CPU that they already found and developed further on that. So I think that's where we're going to add that to the story because it's proprietary information, it's proprietary product, I guess would be the word, since it was the company that gave the funds to Gemma to recreate this. And I think we're going to bring Gemma back in to try and sort out some of the software problems, if not try to save it when it goes awry.
All right. So do you think they're going to, obviously, like you see bringing Gemma back in, even Katie, in the periphery, although I wouldn't see her having a main role this time. Do you think they're going to use the same actress for M3GAN?
Well, unless she ages out or grows out, they'll find a similar actress. I think.
Do you think it's going to be a toy, or could they make it slightly older?
I mean, that would be a plot shift to make it something that's more of a teenager. If not possibly a parental type unit, which would also be interesting to
like a robot nanny, right?
Yeah, something that fills a more like motherly role. For like the high executive female independent woman in today's modern society. It's like, well, I need someone that can wash and bathe the kids, make sure they're fed, make sure they get
robot housewife. Holy crap! You could be onto something.
Pretty much. Yeah, I
mean,
like
back to Rosie, right? Rosie,
I write stories for a living, just like you, man. Like, so the information's out there, the imagination's out there for the million ways you could spin this, and I think I'm still going to be wrong, to be honest with you.
I mean, it's Hollywood. It's in it. It's theirs to screw up. Like they could pull defeat out of the jaws of victory.
Yeah, like my Cincinnati Bengals every time.
All right, Stabby, bring us home. You're the horror fanatic. So where do you see it going?
If you will.
Okay, so they're already filming it. So I already know that our actresses are all coming back. So I'm just gonna have to break you both on that one. They're all coming back. Katie, Gemma, everybody's coming back for M3GAN 2.0. How I think this is gonna go, because I did not read any trailer or watch any trailers or anything like that. How I think this is gonna go, considering she got destroyed in Gemma's house. I think she uploaded herself through Gemma's house AI, Elise.
They show that at the end.
I think she uploads herself, and because the company's already making all these dolls, they're already being made prior to this moment. That the meeting where Mr. Cho gets found in the elevator, that was just the unveiling. These dolls are already being made. So I think with her uploading herself to the house AI, she's going to put herself into another one of the dolls, but also turn all the other hundreds of dolls, and there's just going to be hundreds of M3GANs running about.
Okay. I would like to see more of a role from her development team, the guy and the girl. They didn't show clearly whether they lived or died, so you could spin it.
No, they both lived.
They both lived.
They both lived.
Yeah. I mean, there was ambiguity enough that you could play it either way. But yeah. So that's where I see it going. I like that. If they're filming it now, they're not as worried about the young actresses aging out.
Yeah, because I mean, it came out in 2023. The new one, they're already filming now. So, and it's releasing July 27th, 2025. So, I think
Time jump.
I think there might be a little bit of a time jump, but I think they've kept it in such close proximity. There's not too much age gap between what it was and what it's going to be.
Yeah, and the one thing I think would be funny is if we get some Easter eggs, like you get the actor that played the cop, Officer Kurt or Carl or whatever it was, like
The
he
guy
comes
with the
back.
mustache.
Yeah, he had the 70s prawn mustache going on. It would be funny if they brought him back as a bit part just to kill him, as like a nod to the second movie or the first movie.
And that would not be surprising with James Wan being involved because he loves to interconnect things. If you watch the Insidious movies, you see bits of The Conjuring in it. And then if you watch the Conjuring universe, you see the bits of Insidious in it. And
that wouldn't even be needed for this because this is a literal direct sequel of M3GAN, the first one, right? So bringing back characters from the first one to address like what happened next. Or remember the detective comes to her house and be like, oh, well, we recognized you were at both sites, right? This is why, I could see bringing those police officers back just to get them killed. So, all right, with that out of the way, thank you for sticking with us through 4 seasons. We hope you like the 5th one. We got some big ideas going on, and hopefully we can increase our viewership. So spread the word. As we're recording this, literally the day after, because this is the last day of November, I will be starting to find whatever our replacement is going to be for StreamYards because it's gotten so expensive. So if you want to throw a couple bucks our way to help us defray that cost, we'd greatly appreciate it. And with that, Nick, do you got any closing thoughts?
Okay, so this is a new set of terror horror. I don't know how you're going to classify it. The AI horror. There's a movie I want to do a review later on in this season if we have time for it and we can fit it in. It's called Afraid, because the whole premise is based on everybody now. We have these smart homes going on, where everything's tied in through an app and it's running through some sort of simulated AI, and it just creates drama and awesomeness as far as a horror watcher. So there's things like that. That's the only thing I really have to add. And I'm looking forward to the next season. We're always going to have some really great, entertaining guests, and we're going to bring in some more comic panels this season, I believe. So yeah, I'm super stoked, and I can't wait to get on these topics that we're going to talk about. One of which that we've talked about is the Comics Authority, the Comics Code from the 50s and 60s, and how that changed comics forever.
Yeah, so one of the topics we talked about is we playlist where we have one, I made one just for the holiday season stuff. So you can go back, next Christmas, you could be like, oh, well, let's see all the Christmas ones they've done or the Spooktober ones we've done. We're getting all of them. We're going to do a series like that called Art with Friends. And it's going to, all of the panels but myself, all of the panelists, so maybe Stabby if she wants to come, but all the rest of the guests will be actual artists that are making visual art. And the plan for that one is to cross-pollinate a little bit is we're going to send the compressed file of the video to all of the guests. So if they want to upload it on their own YouTube channels or whatever, so we can start growing our community. So speaking of community, this is the part, dear listener, where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers and viewers find the right products. It matters on independent movies, independent comics, independent books, even traditionally published stuff. If you spread the word, you can create instant phenomenon. And if you don't think you have the power, just remember at one point in time, they canceled Jericho after season 1. And enough of the fans were like, hell no. And they mailed bricks to the director because, Jericho, the walls, right? That they got another season out of it. So you as fans in concerted effort can change publishing schedules. You can make things happen if you use your voice together. So with that, this is where you can follow us on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree / Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree / Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to all the things, the BitChutes, the Rumbles, the YouTubes, the TikToks, the Twitters. We have our website over there on Spotify. We have our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. We have our email, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com for professional purposes only. Save all the shenanigans from Madam Stabby Stab over there on the Instagram, Twitter, and the email. And if you like what we're doing and you want to support the show, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put a comment on the comment section that's for the podcast. Because remember, these episodes aren't free to produce and every penny helps. And when you put your name for the podcast, I promise I will use those funds after overhead to keep my co-hosts duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee brand coffee until they float away on a river of brown bean juice because, it went right through them. Whatever. We're talking horror. I had to make it horrific. All right. So sue me. And with that, thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-hosts, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades Podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time. We'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And with that, we're going to hit that end button. Nick, stop cussing. We got to wait for it to end.